Marcus Rodriguez pressed his face against the cold glass of the jewelry store window, his breath fogging the pristine surface as he watched the clock hands tick toward 3:15 p.m. In 20 minutes, he had to pick up his 6-year-old daughter Emma from school, but his empty pockets mocked him, not even enough for a bus token. The irony wasn't lost on him that a man who could repair the most intricate timepieces in the city couldn't afford to buy time itself. The autumn rain had started again, drumming against the pavement where cardboard boxes served as their temporary shelter behind Morrison's Deli. 3 months ago, Marcus had been head watchmaker at Steinberg & Sons, respected for his delicate touch with vintage mechanisms and Swiss complications. Then the layoffs came, followed by eviction notices, and suddenly a Princeton-educated horologist found himself explaining to his daughter why they were living in an alley. "Excuse me, are you Marcus Rodriguez?" He turned to find a woman in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun that somehow made her green eyes appear larger, more vulnerable. She clutched a vintage Patek Philippe against her chest like a wounded bird. "Depends who's asking," Marcus replied cautiously, wiping rain from his glasses with a torn sleeve. "I'm Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries. I heard you used to work at Steinberg's." Her voice carried the crisp authority of boardrooms, but there was something else, desperation barely held in check. "This watch, it was my father's. It stopped working 3 days ago, and every repair shop in the city says it's beyond saving." Marcus studied the timepiece in her manicured hands. It was a 1952 Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, easily worth more than most people's houses. The intricate complications were legendary: phases of the moon, leap years, perpetual calendar functions that wouldn't need adjustment until the year 2100. "Why come to me? I'm not exactly operating out of a luxury workshop here." He gestured to the alley behind him where Emma's stuffed rabbit sat propped against their meager possessions. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. "Because everyone else just sees dollar signs. My assistant said you were different, that you cared more about the craft than the profit. This watch, it's all I have left of him." Something in her voice, the same hollow ache he heard in his own when Emma asked when they'd have a home again, made Marcus nod. "I can't promise anything, but I'll take a look. Though I should warn you, my current office doesn't exactly inspire confidence." "I don't care where you work," Victoria said, surprising them both with her vehemence. "I care that you understand what this means." Marcus led her to the covered area behind the deli where he'd set up a makeshift workspace on an overturned crate. His tools, the only possessions he'd refused to sell, were wrapped carefully in worn velvet. As he unwrapped them, Victoria noticed the precision of his movements, the reverence with which he handled each delicate instrument. "Tell me about your father," Marcus said as he began examining the watch under a jeweler's loupe. Victoria's shoulders sagged. "Richard Sterling built the company from nothing, starting with a single watch repair shop in Brooklyn in 1965. He used to say that a watch was more than a timekeeper, it was a keeper of moments, memories, life itself." Her voice grew soft. "He died 6 months ago. Pancreatic cancer." Marcus's hands stilled. The mechanism before him was incredibly complex, but as he studied it, he began to see the problem. A spring had become dislodged, creating a cascade of timing issues throughout the movement. It would take hours of meticulous work, but it was repairable. "He sounds like a man who understood the soul of what we do," Marcus said. "I lost my wife 2 years ago. Cancer too. That's when everything started falling apart." Victoria looked around the alley with new eyes, noticing the child's drawings taped to a cardboard wall, the carefully organized space that spoke of someone trying to maintain dignity in impossible circumstances. "You have a daughter, Emma. She's 6. Marcus's voice carried both pride and pain. "She still believes I'm going to fix everything, just like I fix watches. Kids have that faith, you know." As Marcus worked, Victoria found herself drawn into conversation unlike any she'd had in months. No board meetings, no profit margins, no strategic initiatives, just two people who understood loss, who'd had their lives dismantled by forces beyond their control. "The irony is," Victoria said, watching Marcus's steady hands navigate the watch's intricate mechanisms, "I run a company worth billions, but I can't fix the one thing that matters most to me." "Sometimes," Marcus replied, adjusting a microscopic gear, "the most important repairs can't be done with tools. For 3 hours, they sat together as rain drummed overhead. Marcus explained each step of his process, and Victoria shared stories about her father, his stubborn perfectionism, his terrible jokes, his Friday afternoon tradition of winding his watch while telling her about his week. He used to record voice memos, Victoria said suddenly. Little reminders to himself on his phone. I found hundreds after he died. Grocery lists, business ideas, random thoughts. I saved them all, but I've been too afraid to listen. Marcus looked up from the watch. Why? Because once I hear his voice again, it'll make his absence real. Does that make sense? Marcus nodded. After Sarah died, Emma would leave voicemails on my phone because she missed hearing Mommy's voice on the recording. I couldn't change it for months. As the afternoon wore on, Marcus made the final adjustments to the watch mechanism. The moment of truth arrived as he wound the mainspring and set the hands in motion. The familiar tick filled the small space, steady and sure. Listen, Marcus said, holding the watch to Victoria's ear. She closed her eyes as the rhythmic heartbeat of the timepiece filled her hearing. And then something extraordinary happened. The watch seemed to whisper, carrying echoes of all the moments it had witnessed, all the memories it had kept safe. My father used to hold this exact same way, Victoria breathed. He'd close his eyes and listen, just like this. Marcus carefully handed her the restored watch. Time isn't just about moving forward. Sometimes it's about carrying the past with us, letting it give weight to our present moments. Victoria clasped the watch to her chest, tears finally coming. Thank you. How much do I owe you? Nothing, Marcus said, beginning to pack his tools. Some repairs are more important than money. No, Victoria's voice carried new strength. My father always said fair work deserved fair pay. But more than that, she paused, seeming to gather courage. Sterling Industries needs a head of product restoration. Someone who understands that we're not just fixing objects, we're preserving stories. Marcus stared at her. I appreciate the gesture, but I can't accept charity. This isn't charity. This is recognizing talent when I see it. Victoria pulled out her business card. The position comes with a full workshop, benefits, and housing assistance. But more importantly, it comes with the chance to teach others what you just showed me, that the most valuable things in life aren't always the most expensive. That evening, as Marcus picked up Emma from her after-school program, Victoria had quietly paid for a taxi. He found his daughter drawing at a small table. What are you working on, sweetheart? Emma held up her picture. A man and woman sitting together under a shelter, surrounded by tiny gears and watch parts that looked like stars. It's you helping the nice lady fix time, Emma said matter-of-factly. She came by to see me. Marcus's eyebrows rose. She did. Uh-huh. She said you're going to help her remember her daddy, and she's going to help us remember what home feels like. Emma looked up with the absolute faith that only children possess. I told her you could fix anything. That night, Victoria sat in her empty penthouse apartment, her father's watch ticking steadily on her wrist. For the first time in months, she played one of his saved voice messages. Victoria, it's Dad. I know you're working late again, sweetheart. Just wanted to remind you that success isn't just about building an empire, it's about building connections. The best investments aren't in stocks or properties, they're in people. Find someone who needs what you have to give, and give it freely. That's when you'll understand what real wealth looks like. Love you, kiddo. She smiled through her tears, understanding finally that her father's voice had never really left. It lived in every act of kindness, every moment of grace, every time she chose connection over transaction. 6 months later, Marcus Rodriguez stood in his fully equipped workshop at Sterling Industries, training a group of young apprentices in the art of watch repair. The Sterling Restoration Foundation, launched with Victoria as president and Marcus as head craftsman, had become renowned not just for repairing timepieces, but for restoring hope, offering jobs to people society had written off, teaching that every person, like every broken watch, deserved a chance to work again. And in the executive suite above, Victoria Sterling's father's watch continued to tick, keeping perfect time, carrying forward the legacy of a man who understood that the most precious things in life couldn't be bought. They had to be built, one careful moment at a time.